Yes, good people, big up to all of you. I appreciate you finding the time to join me today on a soccer perspective. And the plan is to discuss, Everton, Manchester City, and the Chelsea Football Club cases with the FA, how they differ. And we'll try to come to a conclusion as to whether they will be punished equally or whether Chelsea will be facing a severe punishment, same with Manchester City. But the truth is, you've been hearing fans on your social media calling for the FA to calling for Chelsea to face even more severe consequences, and same with Manchester City. But the truth remains. They differ in so many ways. I get it. Had it not been, you could argue, had it not been the fact that Chelsea, the current Chelsea ownership, weren't it didn't happen on their watch. Yeah, then the argument that the argument for them to face a much more severe punishment than a 10-point deduction, just as Everton, well, it makes sense, but it doesn't make any sort of sense right now. But we'll get into them one by one and try to conclude how they differ. Let's see. Here we have the first, you can say Everton, who currently have been. Just give me 1 second. Let me take care of something. Sorry, I was hearing a whistling, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't an issue with my microphone. So in Everton's case, let's start with Everton's case. And I want to welcome Jude. Jude, welcome to the panel. I hope you're doing well. I appreciate you finding the time to join the show. I know it's not easy. We don't have too many people watching. Yeah, some people like the crowd, but it doesn't matter if we can keep it be as if we can. Let's try and be as snappy as possible, so it's not too long. So whatever people, whoever finds the video, won't have an issue or start watching it. But Jude, welcome to the panel. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. Good afternoon. I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you finding the time to join it. We have Glenn 10. Glenn is in the house. Glenn, quickly, I think I will make you a mod immediately. I don't think there's a need for that, but I want to make you a mod now that, yeah, I have it in mind before I forget. Yeah, thank you, Glenn, for finding the time to join us. Jude, I'm sure you've heard the introduction of the show. We need to talk about how these cases differ. I think, yeah, it's easy for people to just say, yeah, we'll have to face an even more severe punishment than Everton, same as Man City. But let's start with the case of Everton. What did they do, really? Are you well acquainted with it, or should I read something I have on the screen for you?
Yeah, please just give me a recap of what I don't really have the details of what Everton did. I was only looking more into Chelsea audit.
Okay, here's the rule here. The Premier League financial rules dictates that a club can lose up to 105 million pounds over a 3-year period or 3 year cycle, whatever language you prefer. Although certain add-backs, including losses caused by COVID-19 pandemic expenditures on infrastructure, community projects, or women's and academy teams are permitted. So those don't really count. So this is saying now, during last month's hearing, the Premier League argued that Everton's, just give me 1 second here, I can't quite see it. Maybe I need to zoom out there a bit. It says during last month's hearing, the Premier League argued that Everton's cumulative losses for the FFP cycle ending in 2022 were at 124.5 million pounds, 19.5 million pounds over the limit. Despite initially denying any wrongdoing, Everton eventually accepted that they were in breach by a smaller sum of 9.7 million pounds, but claimed they were entitled to it. To that substantial they were entitled to a substantial mitigation. Yeah, according to the Commission's report, Everton cited several factors as mitigation, such as their costly stadium project and a difference of opinion over how loans to fund the scheme should be accounted for. Point number two, the impact of COVID-19 primarily on their ability to sell in the market. They're citing these reasons as the reasons why they had a loss in that year. The unexpected termination of a key player, player X. I can't quite recall who was that. Could that be the Colombian? Could that be the Colombian international? What's his name? Rodriguez. They terminated his contract, right? Or was he sold? I can't quite recall. The unexpected termination of a key player, player X, a contract due to unforeseen events. Point number four, their transparent cooperation with the Premier League. So the Everton they feel as if the fact that they've been cooperating with the Premier League and the independent commission, that the punishment should be a bit lenient and not a 10-point deduction. But let's hear you. I don't know. What do you make of your own case?
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon once again.
Hmm.
Well, Everton has been found guilty, and well, I think it's very different from our situation because first of all, from my experience from the UK while I was living there, if
Hmm.
you purchase a business from someone, and then there was wrongdoing while the former owner was handling it, you, the new business owner, shouldn't be paying the price for it. and
Mhm.
the government sold Chelsea to the owner because government hijacked it from the previous owner and sold it to the current owner. So I believe that it's also the responsibility of government to be sure that okay, what you are selling to somebody is free of problem. So, however, this new owner found out that problem and reported it. So
Okay,
I
you're
think
talking
the
about Chelsea's
way,
case, not Everton's case.
yes. Oh,
Okay,
okay, I
go
thought you are
ahead.
comparing them. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
with that, but
Okay. So
we'll just okay. You know what? Let's talk about the three of them. We've talked about Everton case. You could
okay.
argue. I'd say the FA probably sees Everton's case as a blatant disregard of the rules. I get it.
Yes.
Some are arguing, such as JC, for instance, argued in the morning that Everton's was, you could say, their issue, the financial irregularities comes down to the fact of that they bought some players, the players lost value, and all of that. Even when they sold them, they were not able to recoup enough to balance the books. You can say, yeah, Everton's issues you can say are partly down to how many players they signed at the time. But that's, by the way, in Chelsea's case. In Chelsea's case, you can say the simpler definition of it is that they were making payments of the books. Chelsea made
Yes.
payments off the books. Some are
Yes.
saying that they did that deliberately to circumvent the rules, or you could say to dodge the rules. So let me use a simpler language. Some are saying they were just doing that. You could say to get what's the language I'm looking for now, because there were, in case, for instance, in the case of Eden Hazard, there were other clubs interested. Some are saying that they made off the books payment to get the agent to help them convince the players to choose Chelsea Football Club over other clubs that were interested at the time. Same thing as Branislav Ivanovic, William, Samuel Otto. There are a couple of players mentioned there. I think was this African player. I think he plays for Aston Villa right now. I can't quite remember if he's still there. Bertrand Traore. There were, you can say, but I'm not sure what to make of it because some of the stuff I read are saying the agent for those players, Antonio Conte, to his agent, um, bought shares. They were sold shares or given shares in some of Abramovich's companies, leading to them you can say being favorable to them, for lack of a better language. I'm not sure what to make of it, but we'll come back to that. In the case of Man City, what I've read, I learned that they were cooking the books. They were, you could say, what's the language I'm looking for here? They were reporting a financial, that is, they were reporting incomes that were way above how much they made for the years in question. They were not truthful with the FA, and sometimes they actually blatantly refused to respond to their calls for accountability and all that. But let's hear you. How do you compare the three of them? How do you say how would you say they compare, in your opinion, the severity of each offense? Let's hear you.
Yeah. I would say even that of Everton is not as serious as Man City because Man City, what they did was complete disregard for the law. Everton might have find itself in a circumstances beyond their control, but Man City was deliberate. You don't really have to overshoot how much your profit was. That was part of what it is they were doing. So I think that if somebody is to receive a very harsh punishment, it will be Manchester City. Then in the case of Chelsea, when you are buying when you are doing a transaction,
Mhm.
there are if an agent is giving you a condition, for example, I want to sell something to you and yeah, it could be that the agent is avoiding to pay taxes and is saying, okay, I want the money
It looks like you're
that of
breaking up, but
Chelsea.
it looks like you
I think
just,
it's
I think
nowhere near.
your sound is breaking up. It's not stable. It goes out and it comes back in.
Oh, oh, can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, but
Okay.
hopefully it
So
stays stable. Yeah.
I was saying that that of Man City is much more severe than anybody. In fact, I'm just wondering what their own what the verdict will be for them, because that is a serious crime. There's a serious offense. Even though Pep Guardiola was threatened that he was going to walk away from the job if it is true, if we found out that they lied to him. And I don't know what they said to him, and he just came back and said, well, he has spoken to them, they've assured him that they've not done anything wrong, and he's committed to his project, he's not walking away from the job no more. So, because when he's getting the point deduction and all that, when they were even talking about the fact that when they won Premier League at that time, maybe he should be giving back to somebody who came second and all those kind of things. So I don't see any problem for Chelsea. Worst case, we might get a fine,
Yeah,
but that
we will get to we will get to we will talk about the you said the measure of punishment that we'll think given the severity of the offenses that each club will face. I will come to that in a bit. But something you said, you think you did quite clearly did say that you think Man City's offenses are more grave, or you can say more severe than that of Everton. I think it makes sense, and I'll come to why I think I'll speak about why I think that that's the case. And Glenn here is saying that I have been guilty of feeling panic, also due to us always getting screwed over lately. You could argue Chelsea fans will feel that way, and that's because it just seems as if the whole world is against Chelsea fans. I myself included. I get it. We are on soccer perspective, but no denying the fact that I'm a Chelsea fan. A Chelsea fan, I have to be honest. Yeah, I get it. We have that. There's that narrative that it's the world against us, and it just sounds as if you look at things that's been happening to us when we had to be punished for what someone else did for a war that we have nothing to do with. You could argue, yeah, that's the case. But that's, by the way, I understand how you feel. We all are. I'm concerned, but I don't think we'll face a punishment that will be anything close to what Everton are facing right now. And Blue board analysis says it's that time of the year, and that's a Jerry C. Nice to see you, Jerry C. I appreciate you finding the time to join the show. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. And we have Mr. Barnsley 2023. Welcome to Championship. And laughing out loud there. Everton fan of France from Barnsley. Yeah, that may well happen. But Everton, I think that's it. They're actually lucky. One again, 10 points, and they're still not. Where are they? They're just by goal difference at both of the relegation zone. They're just quite lucky. But chances are, after the appeal, the FA could be forced to, you can say, to reduce the punishment, the point deduction maybe to around 6 or so, but I don't know. And if you're just this is your first time here, Mr. Barnsley, we're looking for panelists, and if you want to come onto the panel, you let me know. I wouldn't mind sharing the link for you. We're looking for more panelists for this for soccer perspective, so we can have diversified opinions. We have welcome to championship. I've read that one, and Glenn also saying, yeah, big up and Mr. Barnsley 2023. Big up to all of you. I appreciate you all finding the time to join the show. We have 8 likes. I sincerely do appreciate that. Here's something you said. Comparing Everton's case to that of Man City. Everton, they weren't trying to hide anything. They did everything in the open, and you could say, unfortunately for them, the circumstances they've mentioned here. I don't know. You heard me when I was reading them out. I don't know if you were paying attention. I think you did. One being the termination of the contract of a certain player, right? They mentioned something like that. The costly stadium and differences of opinion over how loans to fund the scheme should be accounted for. The impact of COVID-19. There are again, in terms of the transparency aspect, they're arguing that the FA should be a bit lenient, given the fact that they've been transparent throughout the process. And they also did mention Everton also argued they had been almost uniquely affected financially by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February last year. So you can say I don't know. I think. What do you make of Everton's argument? I think the aspect of the stadium. I think it's not like they're not well acquainted with the rules. It's not like they didn't know that if you lose anything up to if you lose anything above 105 million pounds, then you're in trouble. It doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. That the disparities around should I call it disparity, or they overspent by 19 million plus. Where's that? Let me find it to be accurate with the numbers. 120, okay, yeah, 19.5 million in excess beyond the allowed limit to spend to lose. I don't know. I I don't know, Jude. I want to hear from you. Is it that they didn't plan for the stadium project properly and weren't aware that it was going to cost them as much as it's costing them now? Yeah, the COVID one, it did affect everybody, so that's understandable. But it just doesn't make sense how they were signing players at the time, and the fact they are citing their stadium expenditure as one of the reasons why they're losing that much. It just doesn't make sense, in my opinion. Maybe did they change personnel and hired somebody who's not well acquainted with the FFP rule? I just don't know. What do you make of it? Let's hear you, Jude.
Yeah, I remember they made some hires last season. They had some people change coaches twice. Uh, uh, um, and then their position was not good at all, and so that made them recruit more players. So all this kind of situation can also might also have affected them. But I think they know the rules, and they probably thought by the time they finish their stadium, maybe if they do well, people will come and watch games, and they will get money because their fans are actually really fantastic.
Hmm.
It is Merseyside fans are they are the same mentality with the guys in Liverpool, so they turn out for games. But when they started having very bad games consistently, possibly most of them lost interest in coming to watch games. So that could be that as well could have been one of the areas they expect to get money. But like you said, they knew the rules, and they tried to hide it, and they got caught.
Oh, did
So
they actually? I didn't know they tried to hide it because everything was in the open, in my opinion. The stadium project, I'm quite sure. Yeah, the UK government and everybody knew about it because it had to be approved before they started the project in the first place. I'm quite sure. I'm not too sure, but you go ahead. Go ahead.
and I'm aware they are appealing the punishment.
Hmm.
So let's see what the outcome would be. They might be lucky in court, and the court might give them a soft landing. Yeah, but definitely they got some things wrong, but it might not have been deliberately. But that unlike that of city looks like it looks like when you think you are in charge and you think you can get away with everything, and then you just feel because everything there looks very deliberate. It looks very
Would you
deliberate.
say that
Yeah.
the punishment
Like
is excessive?
yeah, yeah. You remember Chelsea was supposed to have signed Haaland. The only reason that deal didn't go through was because of the wage. His agent was negotiating 500K for him a week, and then Chelsea didn't. Arsenal, City went there and paid less money for him because his release clause has been activated as at that time, and
Hmm.
then they were paying him 600,000 per week, which they didn't disclose the salary publicly, but somehow it leaked out 600,000 per week.
Hmm.
So those
Yeah, are you still there? Okay, it looks like we've lost him. Jerry, I'm gonna come to you. Yeah, go ahead. Your connection is breaking up, but go ahead.
okay, I was just saying that those actions were deliberate, and it might be difficult for anyone to get a soft landing for a deliberate action. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your explanation there. Let's hear you, Jerry Z. What do you make of Everton explanation, or you can say reasons to why that's the reasons that's led to them you can say breaking the rules. Do I get it? COVID, yeah, it happened to everybody, so that should also be factored into whatever process that was used to come to the conclusion that they appoint the a point deduction is the most, you can say, suitable for the punishment. Their costly studying project and a difference of opinion. The second part of that first sentence there, or you can say point there, the cost of their studying project and a difference of opinion over how loans to fund the scheme should be accounted for. These, you can say, that's them and the FA. The second part, how the loans for the stadium should be accounted for. Maybe that's between them and the FA. But the cost of the project itself, they should know that beforehand, before you can say starting the project. But let's hear you, Jerry. I appreciate you finding the time to join. What do you make of Everton? I don't know if we should call it excuses. Let's hear you.
Well, good afternoon, coach.
Good afternoon to you too,
Or
brother.
good early evening at your place. So first of all, my family, is very happy. I'm sure you can understand that because they are Liverpool fans, so they are happy that Evertonians are in trouble. I'm not happy anymore. You can understand that. So, but I can. I'm happy to see them like celebrating. So it's been a carnival in my place for the last few days. So as far as Everton is concerned, and what I researched and saw, it's clear, as you read also. I mean, they were not hiding anything. It's mismanagement. If I have to use one word, it's mismanagement. And at this level, it's strange to see that how they.
Would it be also to say miscalculation, to be more specific? Would it
Right,
be
right,
correct?
right, right.
Go ahead.
Miscalculation, mismanagement, or unprofessional, you can say. so if we see their issue in a nutshell, so they exceeded the 105 million, that is a threshold that is allowed by 19.5 million, right? So if we see that, I mean, in the context of today's football, it's not like they, if you compare to Man City, right? It's not that they blew it away, right? And still they got a 10-point reduction. So the thing is that the Premier League, FA, they are going hard. As an analyst, that's what I can see right now. But this is not the only thing. If you see on the surface level, it might sound very hard, a big punishment, right? Because it's a small club. But this has been going on since 2019. The charges, the all of that that was built up. If you go and open the sheets, it started from 2019, from the stadium rebuild, from different investments, different purchases of the players. They have been warned on numerous occasions. So when we analyze, of course, as I made a video as well, so like I'm not like a lawyer, so I don't want to go into those technicalities because we cannot like say for sure, but we can only analyze what is in front of us, right? So as an analyst, I see that they have been like given, they have been notified on numerous occasions. Even in 2021, they were notified or warned 3 times. So although they did not hide anything, but they were breaking or near the threshold. So they were being watched, or they have been warned since 2019, 3 times in 2021, twice in 2022, and in from the March, it's always every month the news of Everton. So if we analyze in this context, this has been developing since a long time, right? And now I cannot defend Everton, of course, even if I'm a fan of Everton. But the thing is, I can understand as a human being. I can understand because they are not very run financially very well, like the other clubs. And definitely, like I mean, of course, it was unprofessional, but I'm sure they must have a hard time dealing with all of that, and in whatever capacity they tried. Should have done a better job because, of course, they wanted to stay in the Premier League, right? So these are all the things that we can assume, all these variables, because we don't have the first-hand information that any club who is in the Premier League is by default a professional institute, right? But if they mismanage COVID, definitely we can see what it did to Barcelona, what it did to other clubs in COVID, right? So and especially the clubs who are in the bottom of the table, they are hurt significantly because they only receive a small portion of the profit of the Premier League. So that is understandable. So it's more like their desperate attempt to stay in the business or in the league, or to manage things, whatever they calculated didn't transpire. And eventually, I think fairly, because as I quoted, since the last few years they have been warned with their financial situation, and they got this 10-point deduction. So of course we'll talk about Chelsea and City when you'll come to that.
Yeah, we'll come
but
to that.
but
Here's some
but I just
questions
want
that
to
I want to
conclude.
ask you. Yeah, go
But
ahead.
I just sure, sir, go ahead, sir.
Now, I wanted to ask you, would you say that the punishment is excessive, or do you think it's deserving?
I think it is deserved because, as I said, they have been warned many times in the past. So it's not like it all of a
I think
sudden, like,
maybe I have to reread that again. Maybe I read a different article from the one you read. I didn't come across anything saying they were warned.
this
I,
has been going on
by,
since.
yeah. Just what I want to say quickly. By the
Yes, sir.
time they were warned, wouldn't you say it was already too late then?
No, if you see
Mm.
you're reading the article from probably today or yesterday, so they're just giving what is the final situation, or the final how it is calculated. But what I'm trying to say, with these stadium expenditures, the loan, some of the payments of the players, they were near the threshold, so they were warned to
At the
check
time.
their finances on many occasions. They were not warned for breaching the FFP in particular, but they were warned that they should check their situation, and it is like in a dangerous zone. And at the end of the 2022 Premier League season, this situation came up as well. So I can send you the link later if you want. So this has been going on, but they finally, like in the next financial whatever, like the checks or hearing, they when they found out, and the other Premier League also complained, so
Mhm.
they were overboard. So my point is that they knew, and they have been like told on numerous occasions by Premier League and FA. So in that context, I think it is definitely a fair decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby. Welcome. I appreciate you. You're everywhere talking football. So Bobby, on soccer perspective, we're not on the same gang. I'm a Chelsea fan. I'll try as much as I can not to be biased. But Bobby, I don't know. If you want me to read, we can say what Everton's complaints. The reasons they think the punishment is overboard, and that the FA should have been a bit more lenient. Point number one: Everton are saying their costly stadium project and a difference of opinion over how loans to fund the scheme should be accounted for. Point number two, the impact of COVID-19 primarily on their ability to sell in the market. The unexpected point number three, the unexpected termination of a key player for key players contract. I don't know who that is. I was thinking, was it James Rodriguez? Was his contract terminated? I can't quite recall. Due to unforeseen events. I think they were struggling at the time, or maybe I don't know whether he had to leave after Ancelotti left. That may well have been the case. I can't quite remember. And what year he left, I can't quite remember. They're transparent. This one is just them. You can say they feel like they're saying they're being transparent. They're saying they're transparent cooperation with the Premier League. So the argument is that the punishment is excessive. And Everton also argued they had been almost uniquely affected financially by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February last year. And I think that brings to mind the current Everton owner is a Russian. But Bobby, that's by the way the question. What do you make of their? It's still excuses, whether they're right or wrong. It's still excuses. And do you think the punishment is excessive, or do you think it's fitting? Let's hear you, Bobby.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I have to say I was on Mitch's platform.
Yeah, I did
and
see you there.
yeah, the only reason I would leave a platform to join another platform is if that platform is yours and
it's owned by your brother.
I had a commitment to come here, so I don't know if he heard me when I told him I'll be back, but anyway, it is what it is, and I'm always happy to be here. I tried to split myself in two today, and this is the best I can do at the moment. But hey, look,
I appreciate that.
these three topics, I know you want to take them one by one, and you're
Hmm.
starting with Everton, and I'll oblige that. As far as Everton is concerned, because I have a lot to say about the other two, trust me.
I know we'll
Um,
get to them.
um, as far as Everton's concerned, look, my understanding of the whole situation is that they were given an opportunity to answer a question. I don't think they were actually charged. They had a question, and that was to do with their books and to do with the fact that there's a threshold. This is my own interpretation of the whole situation. In summary, there was a threshold of, I think, about 125 million that they had to cross to be able to demonstrate that they were operating not at a loss and they were financially viable. Yes, they came up with the questions of with the issues of COVID and the other sort of financial mitigating circumstances,
Hmm.
which were given a monetary figure and were deducted from this threshold. In the end, they fell 20 million short. Now, it does seem harsh that they had a 10-point deduction thrown at them. And quite frankly, I think their appeal, which they are obviously in the process of, will reduce that by at least 4 more points. I think they're going to end up with about a 6-point deduction after
You
appeal.
think?
I
You
do.
think that their appeal will be successful?
I do, because of the fact that it's, the financial figure is not that exorbitant. I mean, if it was like Rangers, that when they finished their financial figure, I think ran into hundreds of millions in itself,
Hmm.
it's a different kettle of fish. I don't know what the FA is going to do, but that's just my guess. However, I think why they were hit so hard was that the Football Authority thought that initially they were trying to be deceptive. And by cooking their books, even in their answers, they were trying to create scenarios to justify the situation. This is just an interpretation.
Oh, key point,
Um,
Bob. You just say something.
um,
They were trying to make up scenarios to justify their spending and why they were at a loss at the time.
yeah, and I
Wow.
don't think the FA found it quite believable, and this is why Man City will be watching with keen interest because I don't see much difference in them and this.
Hmm.
However, this is just my personal speculation, and I think that's why they decided, right, okay, you were not being honest, so we're going to hit you hard, even though later on you came out and were honest. The fact that you tried it in the first place has pissed us off. This is my interpretation. I keep saying. So they've been hit with a 10-point ban. They're going to appeal. I think their appeal will be successful on the premise that, look, at the end of the day, after all deductions, it only fell 20 million short, which we can make up easily. That will be the argument
Hmm.
for the justification that, look, the punishment doesn't quite fit the crime, which is what they're saying. In my opinion, I think it's a bit harsh. Why am I saying this? Is that, look, the Premier League, I know they're trying to demonstrate that they don't need an independent regulator to come in and they can regulate themselves. I have my own concerns about that in view of how certain clubs who also have histories that, if you really want to go into, could unearth some things. I'm talking of Liverpool in the 80s.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
talking of Man United even in the 70s. We want to keep going infinitely. They're going to rope everybody else in. So I'm quite sure that them, because after all, when we talk of the Premier League, who is the Premier League? It is all these clubs and some. So that is part of the incentive to keep out independent regulators, plus the fact that independent regulators will take away some of their power and enforce laws and guidelines on them that they may not particularly be able to manipulate and make favorable, which nobody would want. So they're trying to show that they can be tough, and of course, Everton is the first one to come up with this. But having said that, they have a product, and that product is commercialized, and that product is international and global. And there's no point in overtly damaging your product. It's a fine line. They have invited these financial investments, whether you like it or not. The Premier League okayed a lot of the financial investments into the league and encouraged it. So they're not totally blameless if some of it got a bit out of hand. It helped create the product that it is today, and it helps bring money into the economy of the league. So there's all that to consider. And when you consider that, before I even start talking about the other two, because as I keep saying, I have a lot to say about those two. When you consider that, I think 10 points was a bit harsh. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's reduced at least by 2-3 points. Now, can it be increased? Because they'll say, okay, we've looked at what you're saying and we don't accept it. And because you've wasted our time, we'll add another 3 points and then you get a 13-point deduction. It's possible, but you've got to be careful with that. You've got to be careful with that because there are other judgments to make. And sometimes you might find yourself creating a bigger problem for yourself. So that's why I believe their appeal will be successful. However, there is another side to all of this. Those teams who feel perhaps they were relegated because this punishment was not implemented before their relegation time, vis-a-vis the likes of Leicester. Will Leicester come after Everton? Possibly, but I think that's too easy. If anybody should incur their wrath, if they have grounds to sue both Leicester and indeed I've forgotten who went down the season before
I think
that.
Southampton. I can't quite remember, and they're suing them
Yeah.
for £300 million
Okay.
in
I
damages.
think I think that's a cheap shot. I think if you want to sue anybody, it's the Premier League collectively for not implementing whatever punishment was due at the time. Now, the Premier League will come back and say, "Oh, we have to give people time to answer to their charges or accusations." Fair enough, but within that time, there must be, um, shall I say, suspension penalties
Mhm.
that can be implemented while a hearing, pending the outcome of a finding. And this is where I think they will come unstuck. And this is where they will continue to create further problems for Man City. So I think they've started something that's not worth it. So, in my view, it would be to oblige Everton, reduce their points deduction.
Mhm.
And what happens with Everton and these other clubs? Well, if they're suing them for money, they won't sue them for a reversal of the situation, but they'll say, look, the fact that they were relegated had a financial implication on them. Everton may need to brace themselves for that, but that in itself sets a precedent. Where does it end? Where does it end? Any kind of financial mispropriety has an impact on so many other clubs, and other clubs can claim any number of things, from being denied the opportunity of winning big trophies to which is also revenue based, and to relegation. So this kind of what's the word I'm looking for? This self-righteousness, this sort of trying to show yourself to be so good and proper. I think it's a very, very dangerous ground they're walking on, and I can see why they're trying to align themselves with the European, with the UEFA rules, so as to have some kind of barometer, because I think they're walking very dangerously. And if they start this precedent, you know what the law is like. The law is dependent on references, and references is what you use for
Yep.
judgments. And
Yep.
they're creating references that could create a very, very sticky situation going forward.
Yeah, I think it. You can say it's all about precedent. Whatever happens here, they must stick to it. And like you said, they're setting a dangerous precedent. Whatever happens, whatever they end up, you could say the Everton's appeal end up, the result ends up becoming. I think it will go. It will. They have to stick with it for a while, because if you don't, people will ask questions as to why their case is different. Here's the thing. Let's talk about the case of Manchester City. Yeah, they Man City were cooking the, you can say, blatantly cooking the books, and that started from what year to what year? Let's see how many years they mentioned, for a period of how long.
Uh,
Yeah, Manchester City.
2009 to
Yeah,
2018.
yep, 2009 to 2018, and they did it quite a lot. And they've been, you could say, overstating their income, just to cover up, so that it doesn't seem as if they were, you could say, spending more than they were earning. And at the time when it came out, they had their accounting documents on their website. They had it removed. To me, which wasn't a good sign, which showed really they did something wrong, and they realized what they had on their website at the time didn't really reflect what they met the FA or to believe at the time. So in their case, down further here, I'm seeing something that they said one of the things they did. They said allegedly they did not fully disclose their financial I can't say that word, remuneration. I don't know what that means actually. That were made to one of the managers. I think for me, I think what I understand of that is that they weren't fully, they were not disclosing
I
fully
think
how much they were.
reimburse.
Yeah, exactly. How much they were paying the manager at the times. Look at what he's saying. The suggestion is that there was a secret contract. So one of the managers was getting paid much more than officially stated. So they find a way to, they're paying the manager more, but some of the amount they're paying the manager, they're paying the manager through other means. But they did that from 2009 to 2018, like you said. They did it for a while, and they're denying it. They're not accepting any. They're not accepting that they've broken any rules. But Jerry Z, let's talk about that of the case of Man City. You can say, talk about blatant disregard of the rules. I think that is one, and they're actually like, what are you going to do about it? The only thing is that they're not saying we did it, but what are you going to do about it? They're just denying. They're saying they haven't done anything wrong. But let's hear you, Jerry. See, what do you make of their case?
Yes. So just to start with, just because I like to keep it according to the book, according to the
Yeah, go
law.
ahead. Uh-huh.
Not at all I'm trying to defend Man City, but I cannot go like I'm sure Bobby will go and he can. So I just have to be careful, like, because of some reasons. So Man City, what I'm trying to say is that they are charged, and I know some people will say as it is as good as like kind of been proven that you have done the violation because you are charged for a reason, right? And
Mhm.
that I understand, but according to the law and how things work, again, I'm not defending City, I'm just talking as an analyst, right? So they are denying that. So I'm just trying to cover the situation, that's all. And of course Bobby will say what I want to say, I would say, with more license, I believe.
Mhm.
So they've completely denied that, right? Of course, like, we all can understand what's going on, we all know, right? But they have denied that. So when we come to Chelsea, we'll talk, but to give a reference, we self-reported that, right? So that is why the situation is a little bit different as of now, as of 18th November 2023, as we speak. So again, like, if they are proven guilty, right? Let's come to the point. Then of course they should be relegated. There is no other way. Point reduction is absolutely small. It's peanuts, right? If they are proven guilty, which they deny, they should be relegated, and even more. So just to read, just one second. The According to the Premier League latest release, if they are proven guilty, like, the possible sanctions could be suspend club from playing league matches, points reduction, order compensation, order the club to pay cost, or recommend the board to expel the club or take the trophies. So the punishments in the pipeline are severe, and the small punishments are like fine, heavy fine, and points deduction. But if we see with all these charges, and one can only understand where it's coming from, and if it's proven, then definitely I think in my analysis it has to be relegation. Nothing less than that. And one last thing before Bobby can go and analyze in detail with the all the license. Some people, of course everyone knows that, but somehow I think the layman forgets about the FFP, but it is kind of technical, right? So I'm not going into detail with all the technicalities, but in one thing in FFP is that it checks the revenue of the club, right? So of course, how the club makes money also comes into consideration. So the club like Man United, Liverpool, of course they sell more merchandise than other clubs, right? Chelsea is also like now a very big club, and compared to Man City, you are getting the point. So Man City's overall appeal is probably just in the last few years, 3, 4, is still up, not there. If you see their merchandise sale, the revenue, the worldwide appeal, their sponsorship rights. So that is why, even though like if a layman is seeing the financial book, they might get confused, but the thing is they are not making as much money as say Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea. So that is why it is even more significant. You see what I'm trying to say, that how were they able to spend so much money? Because they are not so profitable. Their reach, their sponsorship, their merchandise sales, XYZ is not there. Still it's not there yet, or was clearly not there when they were charged. So yeah, so that's all I can say. If they are proven guilty, and why it is taking long is because it will take long. We never know. It can come up next month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. We never know, because this is going. Such situation is going behind the scenes. So stuff like that will takes time. So yeah. So Bobby, I would like you to go ahead and take the floor.
Yeah, but I know you can't wait to hear Bobby talk about Man City's case. Bobby, let's hear you. What do you make of their case? They are outright denying they did anything wrong. But from the perspective of the FA, yeah, they were cooking the books, not reporting, presenting accurate accounting reports. They were making it seem, putting the whole thing to seem as if they're making more than they're actually bringing in. So to cover up for their spendings, so they didn't break any rules, given that the fact they cooked the books. But Bobby, let's hear you. What do you make of their case?
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly right. Look, everything about this Man City thing leaves me deeply, deeply concerned because of the bigger picture involved. Deeply concerned. Now, what is a charge? A charge is quite simply, look, if somebody gets arrested and, I'm quoting sort of English law, the accusations or whatever it is brought about to them, their case is sent to the CPS, and if the CPS sees evidence or potential evidence against the individual, they are then charged and taken to court to answer their case. Now, in this
So just,
case,
just quickly, charges doesn't necessarily mean that that person is guilty.
it doesn't mean guilty, but it means that the prosecution has got evidence against you, and it's up to you to turn around and either disprove the evidence or to make your case to counter whatever evidence they have. So the prosecution against Man City in this case is the Premier League. They have shown their evidence of how do I put this, improprieties in terms of
Hmm.
their accounting and their finances. Now, what concerns me? Man City have denied it, yes. Denied it with confidence, yes. Why are you concerned? Because the evidence is quite logical. They're a team that's new. They are not generating the revenues that they have. Why am I bothered by this? Because they're owned by a state. A state is a very, very, very powerful entity. I'll give you an example. If a state owns, for example, an oil company, and they have said at XYZ time that oil company was buying shares from Manchester City. This is highly hypothetical. Now, in all this time and in all this legal gymnastics, that state could completely make that entity independent. It could make it an entity of its own. It could make it disassociated from the government itself, rather than the position it was at the time of the initial finding. That's the power it has. There's also the concern I have that the Premier League, which inevitably is only what are they, 20 clubs in the Premier League? I've forgotten off the top of my head. We play 38 games, 19 clubs, right? And these 19 clubs are meant to stand up against the power of a state-owned club, a state-owned club that's very invested in sport in general and in football in particular. That's not a very healthy position to be in. I look at it as skewed. I look at it as curious because believe you me, if that had been any other club, and we at Chelsea Football Club have first-hand experience of this, if there is any situation that the club needs to answer, there will be preliminary punishments, suspensions, banishment from trade, transfers, things like that, all of which Chelsea Football Club has been through, had experience of, and I'll come to them in a minute when you're going happy to talk about them. I think none of that has happened to Man City. In my view, is because of the fear of this state-owned club and the power of the state behind them. And the fact that this club, there is, we mentioned how Everton are very much a part of this product. And they, the investment into Everton was taken with open arms. And just like the investment by Man City was welcomed with open arms. So it's going to be a very, very tricky and delicate situation to punish them. Now, when you have 115 charges, most definitely one has to stick. I mean, you'll be even more curious if none sticks. And the question then will be, what do you do with them with that one in a hypothetical sense? If it is just one, quite clearly it has to be more than that. If that one sticks, what will the punishment be? Especially after you've made this ruling over Everton, and goodness knows what you're going to do with Chelsea. So I think it's just the whole idea, FFP is creating a problem for itself. We need to be a little bit real here. Football has always been about money, always. We've suddenly just created this holier than thou attitude towards money because all of a sudden the initial financial powers are being threatened and they're basically being usurped. And all of a sudden we're trying to say, oh, we're all fair and free and we should all play within certain rules because of other clubs who have overspent their boundaries and run into problems. To me, that's a smokescreen. For FFPs talking about, oh, let's regulate how much people spend to make sure that they are a viable and sustainable business is smokescreen talk for let's cap what other people can spend so as to make sure that they don't completely usurp the initial powers. That's what this is about. Let's not beat around the bush and think that they care about clubs going into bankruptcy and things for overspending. They couldn't give a cahoots about that. But they do care about clubs having the financial muscle to overturn the initial big clubs. That's my opinion of it. Now, Man City is a problem for them. PSG is a problem for them because they're owned by states. How
Yeah,
do
you
you
would think by now that that PSG will be facing some sort of punishment.
So in its
exactly
early days, sorry to cut, and Newcastle is in the market.
and Newcastle as well, because they have embraced this money. There is the power of state ownership. This now transcends and becomes a matter of governments.
Hmm.
Will the government that owns the Premier League, more or less, allow too much interference in a relationship with the state? I think not. So now it's becoming
So
sticky.
now it's become politics, right?
Well, of course it is. Of course it is. It's become politics. It's become sticky. Yes, politics mix with legalities, and so they are going to keep playing the legal game for as long as they can get away with it, or for as long as it takes for them to be able to cover their tracks. That's what's going on here. That's what's leaving such a foul taste in my mind, in my mouth about it. That's why I keep screaming about it. That's why it doesn't look, it's just not a good look. You may as well just forget about it than play this game, try and deceive everybody into thinking you're doing something righteous, whereas you're not. You're backing yourself into a corner. I can't see how they can relegate Man City. I really can't see it. How are you going to do that? Does it even make sense? Why are you shooting? Why are you cutting off your nose to spite your
Here's something
face?
something else I want to say quickly. We'll still get to Chelsea.
Oh, yes.
I think they're dealing with clubs that if they really get them and the clubs aren't happy about that, I think they inadvertently, you could say, laying the foundation for the clubs to get together again and say, you know what, let's go for the Super League.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're laying the foundation for the clubs to look for some sort of independent way to ply their trade and get their glory. And also, they're creating agitations between states. These clubs have invested in a product that belongs to one state, and now you're telling them that all the money they invested has to go down the pan because they can't profit from it. They're going to look at you and think, oh, okay, we're going to stop certain other investments because of the way you've treated us. You see where I'm coming from with this?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this
yeah, I'm
is
with you.
this is not an easy navigation. And this is why you have them after more than a year. There's no suspension from transfer windows. There's nothing. There's absolute silence. And then you want to smoke screen everybody by getting certain media outlets to talk about Chelsea, who I don't believe should be punished at all. And I'll explain that later. And now to talk about Everton, who, yes, there's an impropriety there, but you've hit them with 10 points to show that oh, we're very strict on this. Oh, we don't tolerate this. Nonsense. Absolute hypocrisy. And that's what I don't like. Not that I particularly have
Mhm.
anything against Man City. I just think, well, they saw a gap in the market and they went for it. So why all the pretense? Why all the, oh, we're going to charge them with this, that, and the other? You're not going to do damn S with them. And they know it, you know it, we all know it. It's all a smokescreen, it's all a charade.
Eh,
Why? I don't
mhm.
even think they have the
Go ahead,
into
Bobby.
court because they don't even have the legal grounds for it. So what are we doing here? We're just going through a sham.
It's then it'd be interesting to see how they deal with state-owned clubs. We'll find out in due
Sorry,
time.
was I heard?
There's no hiding
I
away
was cut
from it.
off.
Yeah, we heard
Huh?
you. We heard you very well. You there,
Bobby made
Bobby?
a very good point, very
Yeah.
technical. I didn't think about it, to be honest, earlier about about these states that are involved. Of course, they have. I'm not going into detail because I really avoid politics. But he said, I mean, that the UAE have a lot of business in affiliation in UK. So I mean, this is a solid point, and now I can understand why it's getting delayed, and probably they will get away with that. And of course, to their defense in a way,
Yeah, Bobby,
not a
we
defense, but
heard everything. Maybe you weren't hearing us.
Oh,
And
good, good.
Jersey's responding to what you said. Go ahead, Jersey.
Yeah, I'm glad you heard everything
Yeah.
because, it was a bit curious. I was cut off. I know it wasn't from you, but, these things have to be said. And
of
I think
course.
we're free to say it
No, I just
because
Yeah,
have
it's
to be.
yeah, we
dodgy.
have to. It makes sense, actually.
It's dodgy.
It's
You're
global
absolutely correct.
politics.
You're
That's
absolutely
what it's
correct.
gone into. But go ahead, Jersey. You were responding to what
No,
Bobby said.
I was actually amazed by this point because I didn't think about that. Of course, I know all these facts, but about this state-owned situation, and as I said when he was talking about it, because UAE and UK, they have a lot of business ties. So when so I can understand this political situation and also understand why it's getting delayed, and maybe City will go
Mhm.
with absolutely nothing. But again, like we are not even defending City, or we are not for City or against City. But I was talking to a friend who supports City, a friend in UK in Manchester. So I mean, of course, everyone has their own narratives, right? So he was, when Bobby was talking about FFP and why it is there for a reason. So according to my friend, he was like, Man United, it's for Man United and Liverpool, because in a way they have done what they did in the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? And now it's applied. So the stronger will remain strong because of this, right? You got the point. I mean, so if I listen to him, he has a point to an extent. I mean, if they can afford, they can afford. But no, because you are not in the revenue, you're a new club. So in that way, the FFB is also questionable in a way, because it will be easier for established club to keep their dominance, right? So I'm just sharing this point as well.
Yeah. It's we'll wait. We're not going anywhere. We'll wait as long as there's life. We'll wait to see how they deal with Man City, Newcastle, all those state-owned. You can argue state-owned clubs. Even if the clubs are owned by individuals, those individuals have connection or yeah, their respective countries and have good businesses, all your businesses and all that. So politics comes into play in a big way. Let's talk about Jersey. Let's talk about Chelsea's case. Chelsea's case, categorically, you could define it as making payment off the books. You can say there are two reasons you could argue that Chelsea did that: either to get the agents, because mainly to agents. But there's one manager here that's saying receive more payment off the books, but also there are agents getting shares from businesses owned by Roman Abramovich and all that. One says one is Connie Bear agreed to Connie Bear. Let's say the Italian. Let's start on this one. On July, for instance, on 18th of July 2017, the files show an Abramovich-owned company called Connie Bear Holdings, based in the British Virgin Islands, signed an agreement with Federico Pastorello, an Italian football agent. The Italian has been described in multiple reports as being close to Antonio Conte, the former Chelsea manager, and has spoken about the manager's contract negotiations in the media. Connie Bear agreed to pay Pastello £10 million for a 75% stake in Excellence Investment Fund, a business based in the U.S. state of Delaware. Documents suggest it's complex. So many caveats to everything you hear people talk about here. So let's just call it Chelsea's cases that they made payments off the books. You can say it designed to circumvent to navigate the rules or to avoid getting into trouble with the FFP. Or you could say that's a solid argument since the payments were to some football agents were just made to help for the agent to help convince the player. For instance, the case of Hazard. Many clubs wanted Hazard at the time. Conte, other clubs wanted Conte at the time. Willian, Branislav Ivanovic, and all that. You could say it was just to get the agent to convince the players to come to Chelsea. But I'll come to you in a bit. Let's catch up with what we have in the chat. And I want to hear you talk about Chelsea's case. What do you make of it? This is saying that Bobby is a Terminator. He will be back, according to Glenn 10. Bobby, indeed, in terms of talking about Chelsea or talking about football overall, especially football politics, but Chelsea more importantly overall. But when it comes to football politics, I think he makes a lot of sense. So also, sorry, connectivity, not a problem. It happens to all of us. And Constantine Dante, big up to you, brother. Always nice to see you, and welcome to Soccer Perspective. Let's see what else we have here. Looks like Michi still go. Michi doesn't stop until 12 hours. And the blue to forget me said the house. He says, Coach, I think the 115 child charges will be heard in batches, and not as a separate, not as a separate charges. Then it take 1,000 years to get through it. Yeah, if that's not the case. For example, if they are found guilty of one of the charges in a batch, then they will be guilty of all they've been linked with. Wow, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure how things work in the UK also. It's just us against the world, Bobby. Yeah, I think that sometimes you can say I'm inclined to believe that's the case. Yeah. I am not being arrogant, but the league needs a Chelsea and City. That's just the truth. Brandon and whatever comes to mind. Let's see, and the politics part of it. But we'll see how that pans out. Even our staunchest rivals would admit the league would not be the same. It changes. They would just dominate. It would just be a league of the sort of thing we see in Germany, where Bayern Munich would dominate for 1,000 years before any other team gets to win the league. Of course, they need us too much revenue. Revenue also is important. So that's why, again, there are many reasons why I'm thinking that Chelsea's case will end up being a monetary fine. Even if it ends up being point deduction, it will not be that much. This is saying we will get another bigger fine and maybe a transfer ban like last time. They get money and also hinder us enough, but transfer ban won't do us much damage, in my opinion. We'll sign too many players. Except if transfer ban includes us not bringing back our players. We have a loan somewhere, but we'll find out what happens. Here's the thing: part of this part is very important. The new owners bought the club, and during itself, what's the term Bobby used the other time? Self audit found some financial irregularities and self-reported that to the FA and the UEFA. UEFA then looked at it. UEFA don't go back beyond 3 years, and they said, okay, we've seen it. You have to pay us a fine, and they pay around 8.5 million pounds in fine, and that's it. They're done with UEFA. But yeah, I'm hearing that for the FA, they can go back 1,000 years if they want. That's where we have a problem. But the fact that we're under a new ownership, and they found the irregularities and reported it to the appropriate body, or reported it to the FA to be specific. I think, to me, I don't think it makes sense to come say, okay, you know what, you're facing a 30 points deduction, or even 10 points deduction. It just doesn't make sense. But Jerry, see, let's hear you. You can start by talking about the severity of what Chelsea did, because the truth is, whether you're a Chelsea fan or not, did Chelsea do anything wrong? Yes, they did something wrong, but there are so many other factors to consider, and come to the conclusion that they differ. It differs a bit from that of Man City and Everton. And here, Constantine Dante. Okay, I've read that, but let's hear you, Jerry. What do you make of Chelsea's case?
Yeah, so the information that we all have access to, if we go by that, then of course we cannot defend that, because it's there. We have acknowledged that, and we have reported that. So yeah, I mean, that's all fine. So it's not something to be very proud of, but of course we even when the club has acknowledged that, so we have to understand that and face the reality. Now, so we have to see like what the situation is. As you said, with UEFA, they don't go back. It's 3 years or 5 years. I have to check. I think maybe 5 years.
UEFA doesn't go beyond 3 years.
Okay.
Backwards.
So anyhow, this is related to this Premier League. So as you were saying. First, let me discuss the claims and this investigation. Okay, so first thing I would like to say, because I was hearing on the other stream, people are thinking that this is not like, this is just being discussed by the fans. Of course it is. It's not official. Yeah, officially it's not correspondent yet, but the investigation is going on. We all know that, right? But we don't know what's going on, how serious it is. This is all.
The FA did say in the particular report that I'm reading that yes, they're looking into it now.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to say, that they are looking into it. Some people maybe they are not aware, but thinking that it's just a speculation. So it's not a speculation; it's a fact. But we don't know what this stance is. That's all speculation, right? So of course, as you have already explained in your introduction about the charges, sorry, not the charges, the issue, because there are no charges yet. So of course, there are undisclosed payment, mainly to do with the agents, and the mentioned the articles and everything that I found out. It's Antonio Conte's names is mentioned, and this agent Pestrello. or how do you pronounce it? Sorry for that.
Don't worry
Difficult for
about the
me.
name.
Yeah,
Pastorello.
Pastorello. Maybe Bobby would
It's
be aware of that.
Italian,
So
so it's
need to
never
improve
easy to
my
pronounce. Yeah, in most
Italian
cases. Yeah.
pronunciation. And the players Eden Hazard, Willian Eto, among other players, they are
And
mentioned. So
plus, Bertrand Traore.
yeah,
They said he's a fullback. Yeah, he's not a fullback. He's an attacking player.
so it's
But
all
go ahead
about
with what you're saying. Sorry, just
the
one more. The files also revealed at least 7 million in payments made between 2005 and 2017 to companies linked to Zoran and Vladimir Lemik. The latter, a key advisor to Abramovich, was reportedly a pivotal figure in the arrival of stars such as Ian Robben, Branislav Ivanovic, the man of matches, and the double winning Carlo Ancelotti. But just go ahead.
yeah.
It,
No, thank you
yeah,
for
it's not
adding this.
straightforward, really. Go
So
ahead.
again, yeah, it's not straightforward. It's a little bit technical again, and yeah. So according to the financial experts and the lawyers, not the people who have speculated, so given by their take, the possible punishments could be right. So I'm just analyzing. This is my job, so I don't know. This has to do with the law, so which I'm not aware of. So it could be a financial or a points penalty. So nowhere it is like the relegation stuff. This is a rumor. This is being spread out. With everything I checked, at least there is nothing concrete that there is a relegation threat. So I hope it is the case. So according to the financial experts and the lawyers of the football that I have checked in everything which I could get hold of, the possibility, right now we don't even know that this is the route that they will take. But if they will take, it's something you can say sort of the maximum thing that would happen is the points reduction, like the Evertonian case. And why we cannot take it lightly is because, again, like Everton, this has been just done to Everton. So of course, if something happens, then as Bobby was saying, and which I concur, that there is a reference point now, right? Okay, so and the one last thing I would like to add to this, as you were saying, and I was also thinking about that, because they are new owners, they have not done it right, and it's everything is clear, and they self-reported it. So what is the rule? So what I checked and what I found out, that because it might, again, a professional lawyer or someone who knows the rules of where this would take place, I think in UK, can explain that, sports situation, the laws. But even if the new owner have reported that, because it's an institute, a firm, an organization, it will still come under scrutiny. It's still the charge. If there are something, they could still be charged. But because in law there is, of course, a case, if like this is self-reported, then this could come into consideration, but it will not, you can say, waive any potential sanctions or fine, whatever. So this is what my understanding with the research is. And Chelsea owners can always go and have a case to defend that they have been new owners. And especially, just one last thing to conclude, because there's so much into it. When there's a takeover, it takes time. You do, FA and everyone, go and investigate anything that is remaining, any financial situation, impending sanctions, violations. But because of, again, I don't want to, for some reason, really avoid political talks, but with the situation of Chelsea takeover with the Russian stuff, right? This was done abruptly, and it was quick. So I was reading the lawyers and the reporters who were their points. They were saying that the Todd Bowley have a if we are assuming, if it goes to that route, that we are fined or points would be deducted. So we don't know. So it's hypothetical. But if it happens, then they can always defend themselves, because they didn't get this. The timeline was not exactly the same which is for other clubs, because it was done abruptly. It was a quick takeover, and so according to my research, they do have a point. So all in all, if the way I have seen and analyzed, we do have a strong footing. But again, since it's an organization, an institute, if something comes up, which already we have acknowledged, then we can face the penalty, which is The maximum, in according to my research as of now, is could be a point reduction like Everton.
Listen, something that's clearly here says Samuel Gubert, a sport barrister at Outer Temple Chamber, said if a club were to hide outgoings in terms of payments and all that, are you still there, Jersey? By paying those sums through other entities,
Yes,
it
sir.
is conceivable. It is conceivable that they could be in breach of the FFP. The question is, why were they making the payment? Were they making the payment to navigate the rules and you said not just to balance the books in an indirect manner, for lack of a better language? But that's just me. Bobby, let's hear you. You've heard Chelsea's case. While you can say they're still being investigated. And the new owners have reported it themselves. They didn't wait for anybody to find out, and they don't have to. They could have swept it under the rug and find a way to still keep it hidden for a while. And if you ask them, they deny it. Then we'll go to court, which I think, which I know quite well, will be very difficult to find out and accuse them of it. But let's say what do you make of the? You can say what the irregularities. Let's keep it at that. And after that, we'll rank the severity of each offense by each of the clubs we've been talked about here. But just 1 second, maybe point reduction
You
as
don't
well.
want me to talk, do you?
Yeah, just 1 second, Bobby. But we won't get relegated.
You don't want me
Imagine
to
getting
start this.
relegated with City. We won't win the championship. The championship isn't actually easy to win. But Bobby, let's hear you. What do you make of what we're being accused of? I wouldn't even say accused of. What we reported to the FA. They're currently investigating to see
First
if
of all, First of all, a lot of positivity has been going around Chelsea. You know, we've been doing well finally on the pitch. There's signs that the project is working. We've got some players, you know, making some waves in the England team. And it's all looking too good for the Chelsea detractors. So what do? They latch onto a story that at the moment is a non-story, and they start pushing narratives to create a speculative judgment on the club, number one. Number two, perhaps I really should have been a lawyer, honestly, because if I was within the realms of law and being paid a retainership, I would fight this to the nail. How can you put a man in prison that's already in prison? Chelsea have no punishment to answer, even if all these things are what they are. Some of them are for things that happened before FFP. And if we want to go down that road, let's look at Man United in the 90s. Let's look at Liverpool in the 80s, the so-called
since there's no limit to how
saints.
far back they can go.
Exactly. You know, the so-called saints of FFP. This is a hypocrisy to the highest order. It is a witch hunt. It is vindictive. Chelsea Football Club have been punished enough. Whatever Roman did, first of all, the sale of Chelsea was a hurried sale because of the punishment to be meted out on Roman. So Jersey is right. A lot of these improprieties that came after the sale, the purchase, and the audit that took place after the purchase, because auditing a club of this magnitude is not a one-day affair, what just came out now. And the owners quite rightly published or reported the findings of their audit to the regulatory authorities, of which they were not the owners of Chelsea Football Club at that time. Now, a lot of clever people, or people that hope they're clever, are saying, oh, it's a club, whatever happened, it doesn't matter who the owners are. I beg to differ. It absolutely does matter. Why? Because the former owner was sanctioned already. Why? The club was sanctioned. The club was punished. This geezer lost a 4.5 billion plus asset for nothing. How much more punishment do you want for this club? How much more? The guy had to give away the proceeds of the sale. That in itself is a fine in itself. He had the club taken away from him. That in itself is a punishment in itself. So what you want to do? What, you want to go back and punish this club again? Who? By the way, when all this was going on, vis-a-vis the point I made about suspensions and preliminary judgments, Chelsea were not allowed to do any trading. The innocent people that had vested businesses and interests in the club lost money because they were not lost money. Some of them went under because they were not allowed to do business. Chelsea Football Club became almost a leper. Nobody could touch you. How much more punishment do you want? Oh, okay. Get Egbali and Bowley and line them up in front of Stamford Bridge and let's have a public execution, shall we? I mean, come on. Enough is enough. This man, the former owner, did this, that, and the other, whatever you want to say, before FFP, after FFP. It's a non-entity. It's a non-starter. It means nothing. Why? You've already stripped him of his club. Why? You've already taken away any profits he could make. Okay, you can say that was because of the Ukraine war or whatever, whatever. It's still a punishment to the club. And that's why I'm so vehemently against this absolute nonsense. It's a smokescreen, it's a sham, it's a hypocrisy, it's a pretense. Get over it. Move on. Chelsea have nothing to answer as far as I'm concerned. They presented the books. This is what happened then. Okay, this was done by Abramovich. Okay, what happened to Mr. Abramovich, by the way? The guy was flipping sanctioned. He couldn't come into the country before he was even kicked out of his club. So what else do you want to do? Tell me, what else do you want to do? What, deduct points? Does that make you feel better for something the guy you took his club away from him has done? What is this? This is a witch hunt. It has to be, if that's the road they're taking, and there's no evidence they're doing that. That's all I have to say about this nonsense. I don't think
Let me
Chelsea
ask
have
you this,
any case
Bobby.
to
Do
answer.
you see any world, any situation where uh you can say it's okay, we Chelsea has nothing to answer, and that's because everything that happened or on the watch of the previous owner? Do you see any world where that is the case? As for me, I don't see it. I think we'll face some let me say some measure
Yeah.
of punishment. But let's hear
I,
you.
I see a world where the Chelsea lawyers can make that a possibility, because look, this is not a case. It's an audit. An audit of any industry has findings. It just so happened that this purchase was hurried. They had to hurry and buy the club. Why? Because if they hadn't bought a club between a limited period of time, it would have gone into liquidation. You know what that means? It wouldn't exist anymore as a viable entity. It would have brought the whole cards crashing down. So they had to do it. That is a mitigating circumstance in itself. Audits don't take one day. They went through a thorough audit. It was concluded after the purchase of the club, and they presented the audit. Oh, by the way, what happened when they had the purchase of the club? The geezer in question who owned the club was actually forced to sell it for nothing. Do you understand what that means? Nothing. Nothing. When the window of time came that they forced him to sell the club could not ply any trade. So please, what further punishment is justified to this club for what this man did? Even if he single-handedly started the Ukrainian war, which is debatable, what else do you want the club to go through? Okay, punish the club. Okay, take away 10 points if that makes you feel better. It becomes a hypocrisy. And if I was a lawyer dealing with this case, I would fight this till the cows come home. Boy, you think City can delay a case? Any lawyer worth his salt will keep this in court forever because it has no basis. I would, if I were the footballing authorities, say yes. Current Chelsea ownership have submitted their audit. Yes, this is what happened then. This is an impropriety. But in view of the case of the mitigation that the person owning the club at the time has actually been sacked from the club, I think we have to draw a line under it and continue and keep an eye on their current dealings, which, by the way, are very much in the green, which, by the way, they have people auditing constantly and keeping an eye on the financial books and the progress of the club. Believe me, that's enough. That should be accepted by anybody, apart from those with the agenda that want to hurt Chelsea, like the people leaking these stupid stories about taking points and relegation, yada, yada, yada. It's nonsense. Doesn't
Yeah,
apply to Chelsea Football Club.
yeah. Here's what I'm going to say. I think we will face some punishment, but I don't think it will be as severe as that of Everton, in my opinion. But it remains to be seen. Some are actually arguing that we'll face an even more severe punishment, but we'll find out. We're not going to win it. What's going on? It's nothing. If it's progressing that much, I'm happy for him. It's all love, in my opinion. But this is soccer perspective. We haven't been streaming here that much, but at least we'll be doing once every week predictions, and at one point it will become twice every week. Premier League predictions and review on Mondays, most likely. But we'll see. I have an idea. I will send a message to Raphael to go on there and annoy them all. And all we come here. Raphael has been there too. Here's then. It's all love. Let's grow together. Just a perspective, it's actually doing extremely well. It's a pattern. Once the transfer window is not open or games are not on during international break, and if we're not streaming consistently, views do drop, and we're not a big account yet, but we're getting there. I think by the time another transfer window comes around, you could be saying we'll get to 20,000 plus. You could say, yeah, we'll become a big account, and we're not. But that's the list of my concern anyway. We're doing the right thing, and we'll continue growing. Bobby, if I need a solicitor, to represent me, can I contact you? The question is, does he have a license? But he
Yeah,
knows how to
me,
argue or
me
present
and
a
Roger.
solid argument. Bobby, what did you say?
As it me and my brother Roger, we have our services. No, coach, honestly, on a serious note,
No,
I'm
I get
really
your point. I know you're serious, but go ahead.
I'm so angry about this because I mean, what is enough? What is enough?
Mhm.
This club's current ownership have opened up their books. They presented their audit of an owner that has already been punished. Come on, guys. That's what I'll be saying to the Premier League if I was there. Where do you draw the line? This is a sport, not a vindictive exercise. Allow this club now to ply its trade in peace. If they violate going forward, then that's another matter. But to start going to the person that has already been punished to talk of further punishments, to me, that's not football.
But
That's
let's
just
let's try and be
vindictive.
objective here. I think I will stick with the argument that whatever happened happened under the watch of the previous owner. The fact that one is under already under going, you can say, being punished. Doesn't mean if they commit something else, they're not going to be punished again. I know you know that, but you're a passionate Chelsea fan. I always defend your beloved club with the last drop of your
Coach,
blood, and I totally
Coach, you
understand
say
that.
they're not going to be punished again. Who are you going to punish?
Here's my
What
point. I'm just saying
a
I'll
club
stick with
that
the
has already
argument that whatever happened under the watch of the previous owner.
previous
But
owner, yes,
yeah,
and
exactly.
the club
Mhm,
has been sanctioned with because of the issues around the previous owner. So
mhm.
why further sanctions? It makes no sense to me, honestly. And if the club lawyers accept this, I think they have a case to fight. If that's where we're going. I don't think anything should be done to the club. I think their submissions should be acknowledged and a letter perhaps should be written to the club, maybe with a caution or a warning. But to start talking of fine points, this and that, no, 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 no. Chelsea case, City case, two entirely different things.
Yeah, but I do agree with you. The cases differ in so many ways. And I think we've talked about that at length. Yeah. Let's see what else we have here. I said something. Raphael is crazy. Choma, nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. I appreciate you finding the time to join the show. Thank you so much. I can't know. Thank you enough for always supporting the channel on Chester Perspective and on Soccer Perspective. That goes a long way. Most likely, I think he did. I did see him say that. Actually, I did see that. Choma here saying so the UK government didn't see all these irregularities when they seized the Chelsea from Roman before. Chances are some of them saw it and probably getting some bills, some checks from somewhere and didn't say much because I don't know how they, they didn't see that until the club. I'm not sure what to make of it really. If you're watching, if you haven't, please take a second, drop a like on the stream. We have 13 likes. But I believe we should be doing better than that. But thank you more importantly for finding the time to be part of the show. And Choma, hello to you. And a lot of people are saying StreamYard is having a lot of issues these days. It's a general thing. Not been paying attention. That may well be the case. No, I don't want Roger. Okay, let's hear you. Actually, see, I'm coming back to you. In your opinion, what do you think? What sort of measurement do you think the FA, you say punishment the FA will impose on Chelsea Football Club? Let's hear you. What do you think?
That's a very difficult question that you asked me.
It is, but what do you think, really? And the truth remains,
I can only speculate, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear you.
Well, we have already analyzed, right? I think we have analyzed in depth and looked into everything that is in front of us, right?
Or should we first try to rank the offenses in order of their severity?
Okay, let's do that. I think.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear you rank them. Which one do you think is the most severe, the second and the third, and why? Let's hear you.
Look, again, we have to understand. City are charged; they are defending themselves. Sorry, City. Chelsea, they have reported themselves. And Everton's case was going on since the last 2 years. They were warned twice, as I said before, because people think it all of a sudden came up now. At the end of the last season, they were warned, and then they were finally like the action was taken. So in that context, I think it was correct. But of course, I can understand Bobby's and your perspective, because this they went for the small fish. This is one way to look at it. So anyhow, on the surface, I mean, it's clear, like, because they are charged, they are yet to be punished. But given if they are found guilty, I think it's clear, at least in my opinion, that Man City is head and shoulders above the other two clubs.
So you said in what other? Let's say you number one, Man City.
The severity of the case, right?
Yeah,
Man City, because they didn't have the finance, they didn't have the revenue, not the state. I mean, as a club, the institute didn't have the revenue, and from the get-go, according to the rules, of course, I also understand FFP and all of that. I mean, it's a question mark. It's fishy, right? So I'm not going into that. But whatever it is, right, on whatever right or wrong, FFP is there, right? We can always question that and talk on that. But according to that rule, yes, Man City from the get-go, the way they have spent is anyone, layman, no one, if even if someone understands a little bit about money or logic, they would know that this is according to the FFP. I will say again, this is not matched. This cannot be matched. They don't have they even up till now, they don't have that reach that clubs like United, Liverpool have. They're far away from that. So how come they spend so much? Of course, we know all of that. So I'm not going because they are not guilty. I'd go with the textbook. This is my style. Where I live, I have to follow some rules. So I'm not going below the belt, let's say. But of course, I understand what's going on. But until they are proven guilty, they have a case, right, that they can defend themselves. But if they are proven guilty, of course, it's a huge thing, right? In my opinion, the breaches, the way they have invested over the years. Again, like, we can talk Liverpool, my family's club, United, and all these clubs. Of course, FFP was not there. But when you talk about law and the rules, we talk when they were applied and who is following that. So according to that, like, Man City went overboard. It's clear. If they are able to defend themselves rightly, wrongly, due to state involvement, that's another thing. So I'm not going into that. But the charges are definitely, as I said, head and shoulders above anyone else. And if anyone think rationally, then it's very clear that they have gone overboard and spent beyond their capacity.
Yeah, thank you so much for 14 likes. If you haven't, please take a second to drop a like on the stream. The stream does go a long way. Constantine Dante is saying if Clear Lake was smart, they would have included some clauses in contract of a sale if this comes up. The purchase, they didn't know, and everything happened in a hurry. Chelsea were also on a time at the time to sell the club. Otherwise, I think will face a severe punishment that we were told at the time. Trauma agrees with Bobby. Yep, I think I agree with Bobby too, but I'm just making the point at the time. And if it is true that they put money aside for irregularities, and the FA agreed, we might be okay. Yeah, yeah, I heard that too. That Bobby, did you hear that part that Chelsea had money set aside in case if something like this comes up? Did you hear anything similar to that effect, Bobby? If you're there.
Yes, at the point of purchase, there was some funds. I don't know whether it was cast in stone, but it was stated that Chelsea did put something aside in case of any problems that they faced in the future. Look, somebody said, the government may have known this before the sale. To be honest, I don't think they knew. I don't think anybody particularly knew, maybe apart from the Abramovich team. But it's beginning to shed light onto the justification as to why the new owners got rid of the entire old board. Because they came in and they thought, look, we need to sort stuff out. There's some stuff we may be seeing here. You guys really need to get out of here so we can be clean. And, an audit is a process. Nobody knows the full outcome of an audit until it's complete. So I don't think anybody knew. I think it's ambitious, to say the least, to have them know exactly what the improprieties are. And the major point to this is that we are trying to put the FFP standards to things that were done before FFP. Some of these charges, I think quite a number of them, or they're not even charges yet, because they're findings of an audit. Some of these findings took place when there was no FFP. Roman purchased the club when there was no FFP. He did dealings when there was no FFP. Now you could argue, okay, those dealings shouldn't have been done offshore and whatever. Fine. But my counter argument to that is, look, the punishment has already been meted out on the club. The owner has been kicked out. The club had to have a hurried sale. And within the period of the club having to have a hurried sale to avoid liquidation, the club couldn't trade. Now, will that carry weight within the rulings at present? Probably not. But will a strong legal team able to make it carry weight? I think so. I don't think Chelsea have a case to answer. As I've said, what I demand and expect is perhaps a letter to the club, some sort of reprimand as to the behavior of the previous ownership, if you can call it bad behavior. I don't know. I don't want to judge them. I'm just using that as an expression, and we carry on. But to then turn around now and say, look, okay, we put you through sanctions. Okay, we forced a sale. Okay, we kicked out the old owner. And okay, you've done an audit. Okay, you presented it to us right now. We're going to dock you 10 points. Ridiculous. Nonsense. It should be completely and wholeheartedly resisted. It makes no sense whatsoever. But they'll try it because there are those that are vested in trying to destroy the club. But now they're being exposed because of this city situation. And I think Jersey is very right. City's issue is far the more serious issue.
Yeah, can
Every
you
other
give us?
thing.
Yeah, give us. You can say in the order of the severity of the offenses, which comes first, second, and third. Yeah, thank you for reaching addressing that. Go
That
ahead.
point. Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You have 115 charges. It's been over a year. You haven't answered one. The dynamics and the details of the charges transcend both what happened to Everton and whatever offshore accusations are being labelled at Chelsea. I think Everton and Chelsea are a smokescreen. I think it is a very powerful club in that it is state-owned, and there are political issues in and around that. And that's what turns my stomach in it all. Because, Everton, I think, has been punished. Yes, they should be. This extent of punishment, I think, is excessive. Chelsea has no case to answer. This is all trial by media, as I told you the other time, because,
Yeah.
nothing has actually been said about it. And if there is any sort of investigation, we've not heard anything back about that either. So it's all a speculative and a wishful thinking coming from those that dislike Chelsea and don't like the idea that we're into a bit of a positive phase. Undoubtedly, in terms of the cases that have been brought towards us, Man City's case is by far the most serious. And I don't say this because I particularly have an issue with Man City. I don't care. I've said that I think it's a hypocrisy. I think money has always been in football and in any sport. And I just think trying to pretend that we're this great, grand, glorious system that looks at fairness is a joke. We don't care about clubs overspending. We don't care about those that have gone into liquidation and problems because they have overspent. But what they are doing is trying to protect some of the old guard. That's just my opinion, and I'm sure it's not too far wrong. So, as far as severity is concerned, keeping it 100 is got to be Man City. They have a big problem, and it's high time we start hearing. So we want some answers. It's been more than a year. Nothing. Nothing. That tells me a lot. Sorry.
No, no, no. You don't have to say sorry. You make a lot of sense there. Let's see. We've read that one. And the Bluetooth game is saying, Coach, I think the Premier League thought that Chelsea had acted with contempt. Wow, contempt, disdain, and utter disrespect to their Premier League association by selling Havertz and Mount to them. Wow. Big up to the legends that have joined the letter and have been enjoying the comments. I think it's been delicious, honestly. But be rest assured, after Thanksgiving, we're going to be streaming quite a lot here and Chelsea Perspective also. But mainly Chelsea Perspective, I need more panelists from all the clubs to be joining on here. Glenn 10, 10, 10, 10, Glenn. Much love to Glenn. Let's see what else we have again. Glenn says he's been in the shadows. I wish someone would make a list of what Roman Abramovich has done for people and institutions outside of Chelsea. They don't mention that anymore. Trust me, the list is probably quite long. I did one of my, you can say, my first video that hit 1,000 was a video on why you should become a Chelsea fan. I did mention a lot of what Chelsea has done for the UK. For the United Kingdom during COVID, used the hotel for what's it called? Is it the DHS? What is it? What they're called? The I forgot what DHS or
For the
what do you call?
NHS, for the NHS, the
Yeah,
National
for the
Health Service.
NHS. Yeah,
There
lots
were
of
there are
these.
two big hospitals in and around that Chelsea area.
Yeah,
The Chelsea and Westminster Hospital and the oh gosh, what's the other one? The oh gosh, starting with a B. The oh, I've forgotten their name. But the staff from those hospitals were allowed to stay in the Chelsea hotel and were even fed by the hotel for
mhm.
free for weeks, if not months, during the whole COVID episode. I mean, that is a commendable act. Look,
It
the
is,
whole Abramovich thing, I don't know. What are we? We're
but
just
it doesn't
ordinary
look like
guys.
they pay attention to all those
No,
things.
they don't. I think
You
there's
know.
some unfairness going on there. But the fact is, my issue here, as far as this is concerned, is I don't think the talk of any, and I don't use the word lightly, any kind of punishment to this club
Mhm.
is appropriate. There should be nothing. We've
Yeah.
done an audit, published the audit. The club has already been sanctioned for the actions of the former owners. Let's move on.
Yep, and if you're in the chat, I want to hear you. Yeah, in what other would you arrange them? Given you can say, going by the severity of each what you think each club, the offenses that each club has committed. Let's hear you. It'd be interesting to see how you arrange them. My wife is an auditor. She does companies like Clear Lake. Oh, okay. Since the 115 charges have been reviewed, the City have won a treble. Let that sink in. I think we'll talk about that in a bit. Almost as many goals as charges. Yeah, you can say that we are okay. Bobby said so. Nothing to worry about, guys. Move on. Next topic. And unfortunately, that's the only topic we're here to talk about.
No, no. I mean, when he puts it like that, no. What I say is not casting. That's just my opinion. I feel upset that the club is even in light for these sort of things after acting this way and after what we've been through. That's the solid point I'm making, and I'll keep making. I think we've been punished. I really do. I think we
Mhm.
were punished at a time where we shouldn't have been punished. The sale was forced. What else is there? What else is there for the actions of the former owners? That's my point. That's my point. And that's why I'm so aggrieved by this. That's all. And it's a
Yeah.
nothing because nobody's said anything yet anyway.
Yeah, if that's the case, they should investigate every club. No club is clean. I think you could say that louder, Chama. NHS, that was the name I was looking for. Thanks for the tapping, coach. I was running
Yeah. And the name of the other
dry
hospital
there.
I was looking for was the Brompton. So there's the
Sorry.
Chelsea and West Brompton Hospital and Chelsea and Westminster. Both of those are in direct proximity. In fact, Chelsea and Westminster is right next door to the stadium, and their staff were having full access to the hotel and were being fed by the hotel. I mean, come on, that's a commendable
Yep,
act,
I think he
surely.
spent a lot of money then too. Yep.
Yeah, of course it did. It cost the club money to do that.
Mhm.
Well,
Plus, Chelsea
which is
emerged
huge.
as the most charitable club in the UK. I think it was 2017-18. I can't quite remember. A lot of good stuff anyway, but they're not going to talk about that. Yep, you did mention a lot of them. Yeah, in that particular video. I'm glad you've watched it. Oh, no. Other topic. Sorry, coach. Just go away. Let Bobby give it some more then. Yep. I could listen to Bobby talk about Chelsea all day. Bobby, let me ask you this question. Assuming Man City gets found guilty.
Yeah.
If they're found guilty, and the period in question, it happens that they won trophies at the time, and they've won a few. I think. Let me see what Sky Sports says here.
Hmm.
I think they said keep in mind that Man City have won a couple of trophies during that period.
Yeah,
Do
Premier
you think
Leagues.
the punishment they'd face will be to the extent of stripping them of the titles they've won during that period?
You know, it's possible, but I wouldn't support it. And this is why I call all of this a hypocrisy. Because, as much as I point out Man
Can you
City's.
let us know why you wouldn't support stripping them off their title? Are you concerned that the same will happen to us? Because if at the time our case isn't, you could say, close yet, it sets the precedent that if we're found guilty, we'd also be stripping off the trophies we won. The period of time being mentioned. But let's hear you.
Yeah, I mean, to be brutally honest, I wasn't thinking of Chelsea because I think
Okay.
Chelsea has already faced the punishment, as I've said, a punishment and some, not only Chelsea Football Club, but the business owners that are affiliated to the club faced the punishment around the time where they shouldn't have been punished.
Mhm.
We went through it, all of us, even fans that weren't directly affected were emotionally affected. And in this day and age of mental health awareness, who knows what ramifications that did to some people. Football is a very powerful sport. It heals people, it also makes people sick, and it drives some people crazy. Look, I don't support any action of all this nature. If you start taking away trophies and things, you're even damaging the product. I mean, where does it end? Okay, let's go back to the 70s and strip a few clubs that won things back then. We all know who they are. I mean, it's a nonsense. This is why
Sorry,
I'm
Murray, just
saying,
to interrupt. I completely agree. I'm always with you, and we agree on
yeah,
many things. I'm just saying, but the rule were not implied by that. The FFP was not there. So when they look into the law and all these rules and stuff like that, so I know we are going like to see how it is, how it should be. We are trying to see if they have FFP, and this is implied. So United, Liverpool, and all these trophies, it's a question mark. And you're correct, but the thing is that they would say that the FFP was in place now, so we can only see what it is in front of us. I'm just saying, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the things that are being labeled against offshore dealings for Roman happened before FFP. But, listen, I don't think, yes, there are 115 financial improprieties with Man City. And I think because of the sheer volume, there must be some sort of punishment. I don't think it should be removing trophies. I think that tarnishes the history and the product of the Premier League. And I don't think it should be relegation either. Now, you may say, oh, a fine against Man City is just nothing to them. They're a state-owned club that they can absorb it. Yes, they can, but a fine and maybe something like a 5-year transfer ban will hurt them. It will mean that they will have to, like, oh, what's the name of that other club that had to dig into their academy? Oh, that's it, Chelsea Football Club had to survive by going through its academy. And boy, did we do well. We made top four, and oh, the next season we won the Champions League. Now, that is the sort of thing I think would be an acceptable punishment for them. Transfer ban, 5 seasons, and a hefty financial fine. That's enough, and that's enough to put them in check. And then a serious warning that in future, if we have any of this from any other club, then you can start to set things like transfer bans and relegations, because everybody knows what the punishment is. At the moment, we don't know what the punishment is. And I reiterate, when it comes to the Chelsea situation, there should be no case to answer at all, not to mention punishment.
All right, thank you. With the evolution of these charges, I am afraid Newcastle will have to disband in 5 years. Wow. Roman was earned is a very charitable, but for him, but for his pocket change, you think? Okay. Let's see, Coach. Hasn't Anthony Taylor punished us enough? The man's like the Grim Reaper. Wow. That's a solid argument. Let's see. Please tell more people that, of course, that's from me about soccer perspective. Let's also grow this particular channel while we continue to grow Chelsea perspective. Coach, the groundsman lost his job, and we've got Gallagher in the number 10 for goodness sake. Have we not suffered enough? Give Gallagher credit. I know you're just intentionally looking, trying to hear what people will say, and be mindful on soccer perspective. I think, yeah, I get it. I'm a Chelsea fan, and probably subconsciously will still be biased because I'm a Chelsea fan. But I'll try not to be biased. The blue gala is also a groundskeeper. Now, just so you know. Okay, that's by the way. Let's see what else you have to say here. This says it's part of his training routine. Yeah, whatever you say there, I don't want to read that one. Houston, I'm not too sure what to expect.
So, coach, let me ask you the question now.
Mhm.
So, what do you think about Chelsea? Like, do you think like we'll get punished or fined, or will there be something, point reduction? What's
I'm
your
gonna say
feeling?
this.
What's your understanding?
Yeah, our case is unique in so many ways. I get it. JC was the one that argued during the show on Chelsea Perspective, where he said the entity remains the same. The entity, you can say the offenses were committed. In the name of the entity, just to benefit the entity. The entity hasn't changed. The owners changed. Say, to me, I think even common sense says that doesn't make sense, because let's assume you bought a vehicle from someone, and it happens that that person committed, you can say, an offense with that vehicle by, you can say, they killed somebody with the vehicle, God forbid. And because you're now, it doesn't matter whether you were the driver when it happened. You have to, you can say, bear the consequences. Yeah, you get my point. You have to bear the consequences of the fact that the previous owner committed an offense with it. Does it make sense? It doesn't. But I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of imagination, and I don't know how the UK laws work. But common sense says, yeah, it wouldn't make sense to go punish. You can say. You can say to punish Chelsea that much. I think, yeah, it makes sense. Well, for me, technically maybe Chelsea should face some measure of punishment, because UEFA did punish the new owners, not minding the fact that whatever happened under the watch of the previous owner. So I think we'll face punishment. How severe? I'd say not to the extent of point deduction, maybe a monetary fine. That's a small opinion. And I don't think maybe, let me say, at most they may go to the extent of a point deduction, but not as much as you can say to an extent that would lead to us fighting for relegation.
And
But let's
as
see.
I think a day or two when you were discussing about this very situation, I believe, and yes, and Bobby's first response was on the media, and now we can see how correct Bobby was. So this is all media created, because as we analyzed and as other people have analyzed, there's still nothing official, right? And if we go and check the
They're
media,
still
right,
investigating, to be
there's
specific.
so much we are right, but I mean there's
Mhm.
nothing charged, nothing I mean official what's going to happen. But if you see in the media, they have uh, I'm not going to name any media, you can say most of them, right? So
They're amplifying it. Let's be honest. It's just
you can
yeah.
even see the relegation stuff even on Sky Sports. I can name Sky because as a reference, that they're talking about relegation, right? So there's a lot of noise right now, and of course, so one can understand where Bobby is coming from, like what his take is, and so many perspectives. So to address to the point, of course we are analyzing what we is in front of us. No one knows the situation or
Mhm.
the law, because even if we know the law, we don't know the law that is applied in this sporting situation and the takeover. So according to the reports and whatever I have read in all the English tabloids, the journalists, right, according to them, if even if there are new owners, Chelsea can be fined. They can uh, the points can be deducted in a you can say legal way. So according to them, I'm just saying whatever I'm reading, whatever I've read, there is no exemption. So let's see what happens, and if it is, then we'll know that the media is. Then it will even be further verified the situation that media is against Chelsea. So the time will only confirm that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anka. Just wondering, have we declared his earnings? What are you referencing there? What Constantine had said? But don't tell anyone it's under the table. Okay, let me see this one here. Okay, did I read this? It's part of his training. I don't remember. I think I skipped that because I know who you were referring to there. This says I cannot blame him. The captain earning like Bettinelli. Wow, I'm confused right now. Let's see what we have here, Coach. When I went to Africa, I was shocked to learn some companies actually had corruption budgets. Wow. Coach, I was crying. Maybe we need a pot of money for that. That's the first time I'm hearing that. I think I have to research it really. Wow, the budget for that. You can't argue that. But that's because, for instance, if you hear the sort of budget when they debate, when they have debates, the parliament or the Senate, whenever they sit for debate on the coming year's budget, you'd hear allowance, fuel allowance up to if there's actually newspaper allowance for up to #1,000,000 plus. I've heard that before. I was still in Nigeria at the time. I was shocked too. So lots of weird stuff happening in Africa. Let's just move on from
Coach,
that. Go
can
ahead,
I
Bobby.
highlight that as I keep saying, there is a danger in what these people are trying to do.
Hmm.
There is still such a thing as company law. There is still such a thing as financial law in the application of a company carrying out its business. Now, I know sport is a separate entity, but this is transcending law and going into regulations of a sporting body. See what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I'm
They
with you.
are now using their body as a legal arm. Yes, okay, to sign up to the Premier League, you sign up to these regulations, fine. But if you are now going to, within the auspices of your body, use it to cripple a club from business, that you have already been part of the crippling of this club, albeit not directly, I think that you're walking on some very, very dodgy ground. There's the issue of reactivating clubs' interests in things like the Super League, this time with support, because people will be thinking, well, screw you. If you're going to be hitting us left, right, and center every opportunity we get, we may as well get behind the Super League, especially if they're going to trim the application of the league and have things like a proper promotion and relegation system, number one. And number two, there must be legal references to inhibit this. I think the Premier League are beginning to walk into very, very dangerous ground. They need to leave Chelsea alone, and they need to really think hard and fast about what they want to do with Man City, because I think they're going down the wrong route completely. They can't even touch them after a year upon their whole 115 charges. And what they're doing with Everton is a joke. It's an absolute farce. All this is just nonsense. It's a smokescreen. They're clutching at straws, trying to justify themselves, and they're digging a deeper and deeper hole for themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, in Romania, they just do full corruption, no budget needed. Wow. Let's see what else we have here. Keep dropping likes on the stream, people. The likes took along. But Australia,
But
though,
by the
here,
way,
if you
folks,
just mention it, sorry.
sorry to continue, but isn't this the reason why when UEFA tried to slap down a suspension on Man City, they went to the court of arbitration and
And
had the
City
whole
won.
thing reversed? And
Yeah.
also, isn't this the basis as to how we got things like the Bosman ruling? I think the Premier League is getting out of control. You can't be doing this to clubs. It's nonsense. It is an absolute farce. They're trying to pretend to be this holier and thou financial people. They may as well give this over to independent uh, uh, um, regulators, because what they're doing is making an absolute mess of the whole thing. They need to leave Chelsea alone. They need to even draw a line under the City thing. Maybe tell them, look, you've give them a slap on the wrist, and let's be real with this, because all this pretense and trying to do this and that, even if they're not careful, Everton may even have grounds to sue them for this nonsense, because they're inhibiting the club from being able to apply its trade. Why? Because you spent too much money? Do me a favor. Do me a favor. What's the grounds of that? Where have you ever, in any scope in life, been penalized for spending too much money? If you can't pay your debt, that's another matter. But spending too much? Seriously?
Yeah. I mean, let's see what happens. Let's see how they handle it. Australia, though, here, if you just mention it, people look at you funny, never talk to you again. It doesn't exist much here. To Aussies are shocked when they go overseas. You're referencing corruption, really? And breaking news has been revealed that Sepp Blatter and Michael Platini, consultant for the Premier League. Wow, you have to mention the two of them. Yeah, it's a funny one. I don't know. Let's say, you see anything that you want, anything else you want to add to that the conversation before we round off?
No, I think we have already discussed a lot of detail. So again, we can only speculate if we talk more on that, because it's very it's not clear, right? There are so many variables attached to it. So just the feeling, if you go with the feeling, so of course, because the journalists, the newspapers, the media,
Mhm.
they have, in the last 2 days, they are talking so much on, of course, they're also talking on City and on Chelsea as well. So many narratives, and how confident that they are, I mean, how confident they are that we'll be punished. Either it's a relegation in some circumstances, which is crazy to me, or a point reduction or fine, given that narrative and the push. So I'm just not like taking it easy. There's something could happen, right? It's they will try to do something, especially with what is in front of our screen is a -10 point reduction of Everton. So if I just make a story, a draw a story with the variables, so there is a possibility that we will get some punishment. I'm just saying, it's not that what I want, of course, as a Chelsea fan, and what I, of course, it doesn't make any sense to me that the new owners, after the takeover, when they check each and everything, not just of the owners, their profile, their background, their uh, financial history, the profile, but also to the club. Is it clear, right? There's more than, I think, 125 things, breaches that they have to check. And then they have to give the club in the best way possible. So it's a strange twist, or I mean, it's a dilemma. It's very ambiguous to me that go back and charge or punish the owners to something that the previous owners did, and something happened in the regime when they were giving the when the takeover was happening. There was nothing of that sort, because usually this is what I checked in my research. This is these checks happen, and if there's anything impending, this is discussed what could happen in the future. So in that context it is strange, but again we need to understand the laws. That's why I'm skeptical, because of course if we use logic, this is strange that how can they be charged, because they are the new owners, and as I said, the takeover was done in very abruptly. That was rushed, unlike any other takeover we have seen. And yet what I'm trying to say, all the media and the journalists are confident, let me say that way, the way I have read everything or saw or listened to, that they are very confident that Chelsea will face a severe punishment. That tells me that in the law, right, that just tells me there's something that they know or they see that they think that Chelsea could be punished. So that's all I can say, looking at the information that is in front of me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jerry Z. Bobby, anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
Yeah, Todd Bowley, when the purchase of Chelsea Football Club was completed, categorically said that they are very, very much aware of FFP and the stringent rulings around them, and that they will do everything to work within the boundaries of FFP. Well, one of the things they are doing, and they have done, is present an audit. I don't think these people are fools, although people like to call them fools. I don't think they are. I think they presented that audit, they got rid of the former board, and they're waiting to hear a response from the regulatory bodies that they've presented the audit to. I think, and this is still a thought, and this is what I would do if I were them, should this regulatory body show no respect for my attempts at decency, my attempts at accountability, my attempts at clarity of operations, and decide to slap a punishment on me for doing the right thing, I will take them to the cleaners if I can. I will not let them rest in any sort of court in the land because it is wrong. This is vindictive. It is a media driven vindication. It is a court of public opinion. And as far as Chelsea Football Club is concerned, in this whole charade, we have nothing to answer. We've presented our audits. The club has already faced a penalty in terms of its fire sale, in terms of the banishment of its former owners. Where do you draw a line on these ridiculous things? I think the line should be drawn under the past dealings of Chelsea. We've moved on to a new ownership, a new set of execution. The club was sold for nothing, for nothing. Okay, people will say, oh, the money went here, there, and everywhere. Well, it never went to the owner. What else do you want? What else do you want? That's just, I think it's excessive. But, the Premier League were excessive with Everton. Who knows what they're going to do? But I think they're digging a big hole for themselves, and they might bury themselves in it if they're not careful.
Thank you so much, Bobby. Sincerely do appreciate that. And this here is saying there's deals in the background that will never see the light of the day. Disclosure agreements. I think I agree with you. There are, yeah. This obviously affects the women's team too. I'm not too sure. It appears that Emma left at the right time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure because something I read on Sky Sports mentioned the spendings for the women's game and the academy and charitable spendings and all that don't count. Yeah. Let me see if I can see that again. Let me see if I can find that. I think there are some exemptions, some sort of exemption there. Um, Let me see if I can find. Where did I see that? Academy. Let me see if I can say it before we call it a day. I can't. I think I saw something to that effect. Which one is this? Is it the wrong one? Oh, is it this one here? Sorry, I'm looking for one. I think I did see it for the Everton's game. Let me see. Okay, there you go. It says here. Is this the one in particular? Okay, it says expenditures on infrastructure, community projects, or women's and academy teams are permitted. Yeah. So I think they don't count. And it's saying that there's no way the UK government to give every penny of that 4.5 million to charity. I think it's in the public eye, so and it's easily traceable. I think they will. Otherwise, yeah, Roman will find out. The media also will find out. Emma won it all, nothing as such to prove. Also, she didn't get to win the Champions League. Also, a massive pay day for her and chance to win a World Cup. And the US will pay her. Yeah, I heard. She'll get her pay. You say her salary in the US will be a lot. Many times what she used to earn at Chelsea Football Club. But that's by the way, Bobby. I want to say thank you to you for the sort of love you've shown me, soccer perspective and also Chelsea perspective. And Jerry, see the same to you. I cannot thank you enough. Appreciate you all, and I'll get one more item I have in the chat, and we'll call it a day. Wish her all the best. I do also. She's been amazing. She's been amazing. Men's team could have done with her. Sometimes you just have to move on, new challenges. But well, yeah. Good luck to her. With that, I want to say thank you to all of you in the chat. I appreciate you all finding the time to join us. Constantine Dante and the beautiful game. Chama also was in the chat. Anybody else? Glenn 10. And if I miss your name, apologies. I'm only human. Yep. Good night, everyone, and a happy weekend. And please, if you're watching, do share the link to Soccer Perspective to some of your friends, Arsenal fans, Tottenham fans, Bayern fans, whatever club they support. This is the place to be. And believe me, things can only get better here. Chama saying, good night, everyone, and happy weekend. Happy weekend to you too. Thank you, guys. And Glenn, I just seen you. See you guys next time. God bless us all, and bye.